Hi everybody. Let's move on to this subtopic, which is talking about quadratic functions. Okay, so the biggest difference between what we learned earlier, quadratic equations, is that an equation, okay, usually ends with the number 0. Okay, but a quadratic function talks about the other values besides 0. Okay, so there are two ways of writing quadratic functions lah. Number one, we write the quadratic function ax squared plus bx plus c equals to y, okay, where x and y are coordinates lah. So let's say you substitute a particular value of x in, then you get a value of y. Okay, so that will be, a coordinate. That's one way to write quadratic functions. Another way to write quadratic functions is to, instead of using the letter y to represent the y coordinate, we can also write it as equals to fx. Okay, just to give the name functions lah, like we saw in chapter 1. This is how we look at this lah. Okay, usually we write fx because we already saw it before as a function. Okay, but just know that fx is actually a representation of the y coordinate lah. Okay, because ultimately when we draw graphs and everything, it's all about x and y coordinates, and that's what the quadratic function and equation is. Okay, now in this first part, we want to look at how the individual letters, the letter A, the letter B, the letter C, how does it affect what the graph looks like? Okay, because at the end of the day, okay, what we want to do, at the end of the day, what we want to do is we want to sketch a graph. We don't want to draw it, we want to sketch it. But in order for us to understand how to sketch it, we need to know all these characteristics, okay, of the graphs. Okay, so let's begin. Now, first of all, we want to look at the letter A. Okay, the letter A and the letter B and the letter C. So we want to see when we change the letter A, how does it affect the shape and the position of the graph? Okay, so first situation is if A is more than 0, it's a positive number, and you increase the value of A. If the original A is positive, then you make it a bigger A. Okay, what is going to happen is the shape of the graph will become narrow and steeper. It will still be a U shape. Okay, remember A is more than 0, the shape of the graph is U. So this is the first thing. If A, okay, is more than 0, okay, the shape of the graph is U. Okay, it's a U quadratic graph shape. If the A is less than 0, as in these cases over here, okay, the shape of the graph is inverse U, which is an N lah. Okay, so this is the first thing. So let's say, for example, if I give you a quadratic equation, okay, fx equals to 3x squared plus 2x plus 4, example. From this number 3, you know that it's going to be a U shape already. Okay, if it's fx, okay, equals to negative 3x squared plus 2x plus 4, because the first number with the x squared is a negative number, the shape of the graph is an N shape. Okay, so this is the first thing that we need to establish. So the only thing that we need to ask ourselves is if we increase the value, okay, what happens to the shape of the graph? So if we increase the value, it becomes narrower and steeper, okay? And if you decrease the value, if A is positive, then the shape of the graph becomes wider and less steep, okay? It becomes wider and, less steep lah, basically, okay? But it is totally terbalik when it is a negative A. Okay, in this case over here. Okay, if you increase the A and it be negative, it becomes wider and less steep. Tetapi when you decrease the A, okay, if the A is a negative, it becomes narrower and steeper. Okay, so it's not just about increasing, decrease. It all depends on what the starting A is. If the A is positive, okay, you increase the A, it becomes steeper, narrower. Okay, but if the A is negative and you increase the A, okay, it becomes wider. Okay, so there are 4 conditions here. You have to be very clear on which one is which lah. Okay, next, if A is 0 and A is more than 0, it's a positive number, B is a positive number, or if both A and B are negative. Okay, so A and B positive or A and B negative. Okay, this situation. what happens is the vertex of the graph is to the left of the y-axis. Okay, so what is vertex? Vertex is, okay, a normal quadratic graph looks like this. Okay, the vertex of the graph is where this is the midpoint. Okay, the middle point lah, okay, of the graph, where the graph changes direction. Kan originally the graph is going down this way and then it goes up. So this midpoint, this is the vertex. So the question is, if A and B is more than zero, both positive, or if A and B is less than zero, both negative, okay, the vertex will be on the left side of the y-axis, which means that, let's say your axis is like this, okay, so your graph will be like this. This is a situation. Okay, it's either the A and B is positive or the A and B is negative. Okay, so this is situation, the next situation. Now, if it is neither, if one is positive, one is negative, one is positive, one is negative, okay, whether it's A and B, okay, the vertex on the graph is at the right of the y-axis. So what happens over here is, instead of being on the left, okay, like that, the graph will look like that. It will be on the right. This is one positive, one negative, one positive, one negative. Okay, a normal quadratic graph will look like this, like yang ngam in the center like that. Okay, on equal, it's at the y-axis. It's totally different lah. Okay, next, we look at the value of C. If you increase the C, the graph moves upwards, okay, vertically. If you decrease the C, the graph moves downwards. So let's say maybe your original graph, okay, maybe your original graph looks like this. Okay, so if let's say let's say here my C is -3. Okay, then I change my C, my C becomes, I want to change it to -1. It's increasing, right? My C is getting bigger. So that means this red color graph will go up. Okay, so what I will get is the same graph, except that it will be here. Here is -1. So as if the graph, dia sudah kena kasih naik. Okay, and likewise, if you decrease the value of C, the graph will go downwards, okay, vertically. Okay, let's give a couple of things a try. Okay, so first of all, when you look at this graph, sorry, okay, when you look at this graph, this is the original, fx equals to 2x squared minus 5. This is just the letter A. Okay, now, so the question then becomes, okay, if it's -5 at the back here, you know that over here, the number is -5, because that's where the most bottom point is. Okay, but now the question is, I want to change it to become 3x squared minus 5. Notice that we are increasing the A increase. Okay, so look at your note. If the A increase, what happened? Original A is positive. A is positive in the original. A is positive, A increase. What happens is the graph becomes narrower and steeper. Okay, so you will have the exact same graph, except that it will be narrower and steeper. Okay, so the graph becomes narrower and steeper. Okay, question B, compare to the original one. Okay, always compare to the original one. Okay, so 2x squared, 2x squared. Okay, no problem. Original one is -5, but now you become +2. What happens to the C value? The C value originally is -5. Now it increased to become +2. Okay, so +2 means it's somewhere up here lah, kan? Here is 2. But the shape of the graph remains the same. It's as if you take this particular part over here, okay, you take this particular part and you just move it upwards until it reaches the number 2. That is actually what's happening over here. So your graph will look like this. Okay, exact same shape, except it becomes 2. Okay, so we say the graph moves upwards for 7 units. Because originally it's -5, then naik pergi 2. Okay, so there's 7 units upwards. Okay, so yeah, the graph moves upwards for 7 units. Okay, situation number 1. Okay, number 2. Okay, first of all, our A is now a negative number. Okay, and since there's no number in front here, this is negative 1x squared. Okay, so we have question A over here. This is the original graph. Okay, negative x half x squared minus 3x plus 4. What's happening over here? If you compare the left and the right side, the only thing that changes is this one. Sorry. The only thing that changes is this one. It becomes negative half. Negative 1 become negative half. Okay, what does this mean? Take a look at the notes. Negative 1 become negative half means your A is getting bigger. Okay, so A is less than 0 and the value of A becomes increase. This is the one. Negative 1 menjadi negative half, menjadi semakin besar. So our graph will become wider and less steep. Okay, so you can write here lah. The graph, okay, becomes wider and less steep. Okay, so how do we draw this? Exact same point on the top, except that it becomes wider. Begitu saja. So the letter A in the quadratic function changes the width, okay, of the graph. Okay, but it doesn't change the position. What changes the position is the letter C. Okay, letter B and letter A combined changes whether it moves left or moves right. Okay, now let's do question B. Question B, what is the difference? The difference is the +1 over here and the +4. Okay, +4 means this number on top here is 4. If it's +1, what happens? It moves down to 1 because it decreases. But everything else remains the same. So if this is +4, okay, let's put +1 over here lah. So our graph now becomes downwards like this. Okay, the same graph, except that it is moving downwards because only the letter C has changed from the original. Okay, so the graph moves how many units? From 4 to 1 is 3 units. 3 units downward. Okay, 3 units downward. Okay, so understanding how this A, B, and C works kind of tells you how the graph looks like. Okay, so that's pretty important for us to know lah. Okay, let's continue. So the next thing we want to look at, so just now we saw how the letter A, B, and C, when we change, okay, it changes the shape of the graph. Letter A changes the width, okay, whether it's this one. Letter C changes its position up and down. And then the combination of letter A and letter B changes its position left and right. Okay, this is pretty important. Okay, next we look at the B squared minus 4AC and then the values. Now we learned from the previous video that there are only 3 possibilities lah. There's 2 real, 2 real and different, 2 real and equal, and no real roots. And this is how it looks like, okay, on the graph. If it is real and different, you will have 2 distinct places where it will clash with the x-axis, whether it's a U shape or N shape. Okay, if it is real and equal, B squared minus 4AC equals to 0, it will only touch at 1 point. Okay, so it will only touch the axis at 1 point. And then thirdly, if it is B squared minus 4AC is less than 0, no real roots bahkan. So it's a graph that's hanging in the air. It's not going to touch the x-axis at all. Okay, and so if it's a U shape, it will be above the x-axis. If it's an N shape, it will be below the x-axis. So from this one, then you can tell me already. Okay, if the shape of the graph is like this, how? This will be B squared minus 4AC is less than 0. And what is the interpretation of this? No real roots. Okay, so this next exercise, I think you can do this on your own. Just take a look at the graph. Tell me what is the discriminant that is involved. Is it equals, more, or less than 0? And then tell me the types of roots, the interpretation of it. Okay, I think this is a pretty easy solve, so I won't really spend too much time talking about this lah. Okay, so take some time to do this on your own. Then now let's go to question C. Okay, question C is determine the position. Okay, determine the position of each of the following graph. You want to sketch the graph lah. Okay, so I give you the function. Okay, then you find the b squared minus 4ac, and then you see this. Okay, if it is negative 20, it's less than 0, so it does not intersect, right? If it does not intersect, then it should look something like this. Okay, the only question you need to know is, what is the value of the A? How do you know whether it is a U shape or N shape? You look at the A value. Okay, the A value over here is 1. If it is 1 positive, it is a U shape. Okay, so for this question, okay, let's take a look at this. This one, what is our A? Our A is 1, right? If our A is 1, therefore, the shape of the graph is a U shape. Okay, find the b squared minus 4ac. Okay, find the value first. 14 squared minus 4 times 49. Oh, sorry. A is 1. 1 times 49. Okay, you calculate this, it will be exactly equals to 0. So it's a U-shaped graph, okay, with a 0 b squared minus 4ac. What does 0 mean? Real and equal roots. Real and equal roots means our graph only touches the x-axis at 1 point. Okay, so our graph will be like that. It's a U-shaped graph. Okay, we established from the beginning. Okay, and then it will look like this. Only touching at 1 point. Okay, again, the point of this is to sketch the graph. Okay, so just give this a try lah. Okay, I think number 2 and number 3 also not much of a problem, but just remember, number 2 is a negative, so our shape is N. Okay, number 3 also is a negative for the A, so it's also an N shape. Okay, give these 2 questions a try. Okay, let's go for question D. Find the range of the values of N or values of N for each of the following. Okay, so the x-axis is tangent, okay, to the graph, okay, of a quadratic equation. Now, when we talk about the word tangent, okay, tangent means, okay, touching 1 point only. Okay, touching 1 point. If the x-axis is tangent, means you have a x-axis is tangent. Oh no, so ugly. Wait. Okay, so it's only touching at that 1 point only. Okay, so we call this the tangent line. Okay, now the word tangent, when it tells you that it's only touching at 1 point only, 1 point only means what? In terms of the discriminant, it means that our b squared minus 4ac is equals to 0. This is what that word tangent means. Okay, there's a very big meaning to it, so we must know lah. Okay, in order for us to do this, we need to take a look at this properly and identify what is the A, B, and C. Okay, in this question, A is 2n plus 4, B is n plus 2, and C is 1. Okay, so let's substitute it. B squared minus 4ac equals to 0. Reminding you once again, how do you know b squared minus 4ac equals to 0? Because the question says that it's tangent. Tangent means touching 1 point only. So confirm, b squared minus 4ac is equals to 0. So b squared is 9 plus 2, the whole thing squared, minus 4. What is our A? 2n plus 4 times 1 equals to 0. Okay, then of course here is where you need to solve lah. So n squared plus 4n plus 4, okay, minus 8n minus 16 equals to 0. Okay, you do this, you get n squared minus 4n, sorry. Oh yeah, correct, because 4n minus 8n will be minus 4n. Okay, minus 12 equals to 0. This is an easy factorization. Okay, n plus 2 n minus 6 equals to 0. So the values of n are -2 and n equals to 6. Okay, so this part of the mathematics, you don't have to worry so much about it. The understanding of this, the word tangent. Okay, if you say tangent means, think of b squared minus 4ac equals to 0. Think of just touch one point only. Okay, means your graph, it's just like this, astaga. It's just like this, just touching one point only. Okay, it's not cutting at two different places. Okay, next, number 2. Okay, the graph of the quadratic function, okay, yada, 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 has no x-intercept. Okay, no x-intercept means what? It doesn't touch the x-axis at all. No, touch the x-axis. Doesn't touch the x-axis means it looks like this. And it's not touching the x-axis. If it's not touching the x-axis means b squared minus 4ac is less than 0. Less than 0. Okay, so we want to find the range of values. Okay, let's determine first. What is our A? A is -1. Our B is 2n plus 1. And our C is 3n minus n squared. Anything that's not x is A, B, and C. No matter whether they're letters or just numbers. Okay, we'll take it all because n is a number. Okay, so b squared minus 4ac is less than 0. Okay, so b squared is 2n plus 1, the whole thing squared, minus 4 times -1. Don't forget the -1. Okay, times 3 minus n squared. Okay, is less than 0. Okay, I think after this is an easy solve already. So 4n squared plus 4n plus 1, okay, plus 12 minus 4n squared, okay, less than 0. Okay, figure this out. Okay, I'm just going to go quickly to this because this is just normal mathematics. Okay, you will get 4n plus 13 less than 0. Move the 13 across. 4n is less than -13. And n, okay, look, guys, I said this just now. We are only moving a positive number across. So it doesn't change the sign of the inequality. Only if you're moving a negative to become a divide negative number, then you have to change the sign. But since we are moving a positive number, it really doesn't make any difference. So less than -13/4. And this is our answer. Okay, so there are two kinds of answers over here. One is an equal and one is a less, because our question is asking find the range of values or the values of n. Okay, so this is talking about the values of n. Okay, this question is the range of values. Okay, so when you're talking about range, this is what we mean. There's an inequality sign involved. Okay, if it's just the value is equals to this, pop, pop, begitu. But a range means any of this, okay, can be n. Okay, hi. Let's continue from this. So the next question in E is based on the given quadratic functions. Complete the table below. Okay. Now, the question you may be asking is, how come this quadratic function looks very different? Okay, so this is a good time for me to tell you that quadratic functions, the one that we are used to, looks like this, kan? Okay, the one where there's 3x squared plus 2x plus 4. Now, this is known as the general form. Okay, in Malay, it's bentuk amla. This is generally quadratic functions look like this. Okay, now there is another form over here which looks like this. It's actually the same thing. Okay, but when it looks like this, okay, this is what we call the vertex form. Okay, and the reason why this is the vertex form is because it tells us this particular information called the equation of the axis of symmetry. Okay, now the axis of symmetry is, okay, let's say this is your graph. The axis of symmetry is a line write down the center of the graph that splits the graph into left and right equally. You know, kind of like a mirror image lah. So a line down the center that creates a mirror image. This is called the axis of symmetry. Okay, and the axis of symmetry, okay, the axis of symmetry, the equation for the axis of symmetry always begins with the letter x. Okay, and then x equals to whatever the number is over here, except that you have to change the this one. If the number in, kalau dia punya equation is in vertex form, okay, what you need to do is look at the thing inside the bracket. Okay, if it's x minus 4, the equation will be x equals to 4. Okay, and likewise, you can do it the rest. You know, x minus 13. So the equation will be x equals to 13. That would be the equation of the axis of symmetry for this. Okay, even if there's a number in front, okay, we only look at the thing inside the bracket with the square. Okay, so x equals to 2. Okay, if it is a positive number inside, x plus 8, the equation of the axis of symmetry will be x equals to minus 8. Okay, so this is the first thing you need to know. If I give you the equation, not in the general form, but I give it to you in the vertex form, you can get this information. Okay, in the general form, I cannot know what is the equation of the axis of symmetry because the form doesn't tell me that information. But if I change the general form to vertex form, I can get this information. Now, how do you change from general form to vertex form is something that we will discuss later, but I just want you to know, from the vertex form, we can find this information. First of all, the equation of the axis of symmetry. Secondly, what is the minimum or the maximum point value? Okay, so at the equation of the axis of symmetry, at the axis of symmetry, there is a point over here, okay, and this is called the minimum point. Okay, why is it the minimum point? Sebab dia paling bawah sudah dalam graph. Okay, if it is the other way around, if it is the other way around, as in, you know, if let's say your graph is like this, okay, so your symmetry will be here lah. The axis of symmetry will be here, okay, and you will have a point over here, okay, which is the paling atas. This is known as a maximum point. Okay, so from the vertex form, okay, not only can you find out what is the equation or axis of symmetry, you can also know what is the minimum point. Okay, as in the y equation, the y coordinate, okay, for this axis of symmetry. Okay, how do you know this? Number one, find out what is the value of a first. Okay, in this case, a is a positive number. Okay, A is a positive number, and we established just now that if A is a positive number, it is a minimum graph. Okay, A positive. Okay, if it is a maximum graph, this is A negative. Okay, so in this question, okay, A is positive, and then the minimum value is 8. Where do we get the 8 from? We get the 8 from this value. Whatever this value is, that's the minimum or the maximum point, depending on what kind of graph it is. Okay, so this one tells us a lot of this information. Okay, I'm just going to do the first three for you. I think you can figure out the rest. Okay, the first question, fx is bracket x minus 13 squared plus 1. Okay, what is the number in front here? The number is 1. It's positive, right? Okay, so A is more than 0 because it's 1 positive. So it's a minimum point. Minimum pula, sorry. Minimum value. Okay, equals to, what's the minimum value? 1. Okay, so what is my minimum point? The minimum point, okay, is What is the x? The x is 13, the y is 1. So the minimum point is 13 and 1. This is what this vertex form tells you. It tells you the exact coordinate of the minimum point. Okay, so this is what it means. Let's say this is Anula, okay, 13 and 1. Okay, that's what this means. The x coordinate for that minimum point is 13 and the y coordinate is 1. You can know this if your equation is in vertex form and not in general form. General form cannot tell you this. Okay, you have to change it to vertex form, which we will study later. Okay, and then you can find out what is the minimum point. Okay, and also the equation of axis of symmetry. Okay, let's take a look at number 2. Our A value is 7. 7 is positive, therefore it is a minimum. It is a minimum value, not maximum value. Okay. What is my minimum value? Let's take a look at the number behind there. This is negative 10. Take the positive and negative together with you. Okay, so the minimum value is negative 10. So my minimum point, okay, the coordinates of my minimum point will be, what's my x? X is 2, y is negative 10. Okay, so this will be my answer. Okay, finally, this is a negative number. Okay, so negative number means A is less than 0. If A is less than 0, it's not a minimum graph anymore. It's a maximum graph, which means that the graph looks like this. Okay, sorry, looks like this. I'm pointing my finger padahal kau tengok apa. Okay, the graph looks like this. It's a maximum graph. So the maximum value, okay, we take from here, the number at the back. Bring the positive together lah. Okay, so the maximum value is 5. Therefore, the maximum point is negative 8 and 5. That's what the vertex form can tell you. It's pretty useful actually. Okay, to tell you this maximum point here is negative 8 and 5. Okay, I know. This graph actually salah bahkan. Kalau negative 8 and 5, it should be somewhere here. Kan? Negative 8 and 5. Macam tu lah. Okay, so sini negative 8, sini 5. But basically, the vertex form tells you this. Okay, so general form can tell you certain things, vertex form can tell you certain things. Of course, the key is how to change from the vertex form, okay, how to change from the general form to the vertex form. That one we will do later. Okay, but before that, there's another form that we will need to study, which we will look at the next part lah.